Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to, if you don't know, now you know. My name is Mr. Hecker. And this is the best podcast you're ever going to listen to. So I'm going to welcome this beautiful guest here today, this queen, she is out there in the community doing the good work. Stevie, good morning. Welcome. How are you? Thank you for coming on the show. If you don't know, now you know. Thank you for your time. How has your day been, first of all?
Day's been good. Started off slow, which is always how I like to start off my days. And feels very spacious, my schedule today. So to me, that is success when I can feel spacious in my schedule and in my body. I'm looking forward to a float tank this afternoon just to nourish myself after, a day working at the desk. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
So am I. Thank you very much. So I'm going to, I just want you to tell the people out there a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what's your current situation right now.
About me. I am a mama to a beautiful, almost 2-year-old daughter, Dylan Rose. I'm currently baking a baby in my belly, 30 weeks as of 2 days ago. What I like to say I do is I pretty much am like a hype woman for hire. I run programs. I have a Break Up With Your Bullshit 12-week online program where I really guide and mentor women to help them pretty much unshackle themselves from their shame and their bullshit stories that are holding them back. And we cover 6 universal pain points that I feel a lot of women come up against. And in my own healing journey, I have come up against myself. So, this program's really been carved out from my own healing, my own heart. It's one of my other babies. I also run another program with my beautiful twin sister, Tay, winter sign. It is Fortify Your Vibe. We've got another intake coming up at the end of this month, 24th of August we launched, and it's a 6-week leadership program. So I pretty much do a lot of, my main work now is online programs, but I have been running events and workshops, looking at doing retreats. We do a lot of speaking gigs. So I work individually with my own stuff, but a lot of collaboration alongside my twin sister, which I'm just so grateful to be walking this earth alongside her. Both mamas on a mission. So many things that are hot on our heart. The main thing is protecting our freedom.
Yeah, I love that. And I've just got to give you guys praise as well because you two mamas out there just carving it out and doing your thing as well. And for the people that are listening or watching as well, I will put all your guys' links and everything down in the description or on the page here as well. First of all, plugs. Where can we find you on Instagram as well? Because if someone just heard something that they like there, I want to direct them to you, and I'll throw it up here on the page. Where can they get you?
Yeah, so IG is where I hang out, and my handle is @Stevie, STEVIE _NAND_KTAY. So it is both of our platforms, but I run it, and it's solely where I pretty much hang out. I don't vibe with Facebook at all, so if you want to find me on IG, or you can head to our website, stevieandk.com.au.
Bang, done deal. Just quick question on the whole Instagram thing. How's your stuff been? Have you found that it has been censored at all or anything like that? Because I remember when I had your lovely sister on the other week, I could not find her Instagram. It never shows up until I put like the last underscore on it. I'm like, everyone else, you type in friggin' whatever name and it just shows up straight away. I'm like, because obviously my spelling's really poor. I was spelling things wrong. And I was like, how do I keep messing this up? And I'm like, I've spelt it wrong. And I was like going back and forth, going back. I'm like, oh no, it just doesn't show up until I put the exact thing in. How's your side of that been?
Yeah, we've been censored pretty heavily this year, especially. Like we're sort of used to it, but not to this scale. This year's gone next level. So we've been shadow banned a lot, censored, posts removed. So, we do what we can when we can, but we just still trust that the people out there that need to hear our message will receive it. And we have a badass community who has our back and share our content and raise awareness. And so, you know, the truth will always prevail. The truth will always find a way. And Taylor and I, if you followed our journey, you know that we are truth seekers. We are lovers. We love to learn. You know, we think knowledge is power, especially when you can apply that knowledge and actually not only mobilize yourself into action, but mobilize other people and lead by example and allow that ripple effect to create really positive change. So, yeah, like it's just another thing that we have to navigate and overcome, but it won't stop us ever. And, you know, if we get deplatformed from Instagram, we'll just find another way to connect with our community. There is always a way. And, yeah, like Kay and I we are never ones to give up or be like, oh, let's just pack up shop and be done with this. Like, we are just, yeah, we're too far deep. We've met too many people who, you know, inspire us so much. And at the end of the day, what Taylor and I do is not about us. It's about the people. It's about the children. So, yeah, it literally fuels our fire just to keep going and going.
And on that, the community as well. If you're part of that strong-ass community that I'm talking about right now that we just discussed, I just want to salute you guys and you girls as well, because I've, you know, speaking to Tay and we had our podcast and stuff, and after we had our talk, just the response and the people in that community as well is strong. I've had to witness it as well, and I was like, man, they do not muck around. So I just got to praise all you men and women out there that support the community as well, and then support each other, get this content out there, get that message out there as well. So if you're listening to this right now, sending you my love and say thank you very much for being part of this cause and part of this mission as well. So kudos. Give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself.
Yes, power to the people.
Definitely. I want to jump straight into, obviously, the way the world's been looking at the moment. All of these things have been coming up. It's quite confronting, and a lot of people can get stuck in a rut, and can be quite heavily because all of this information that we're taking on board, and especially when a lot of it's like you start digging and you're like, okay, a lot of this is actually true, and it's been shunked, and you get a real feel for how the system is at the moment, and that can be quite alarming. And there's a lot of anger, there's emotion, and then there's like, okay, what do I do? I can't do anything. I can do something. Let's speak into that.
Yeah. I love the question of what do I do, especially in these times, right, when we are literally in information overload, and not only are we navigating this like crazy year that is 2020, we're trying to live our lives, we're trying to feed our families, we're trying to raise our babies, and there is a lot that is surfacing this year, right? We all spoke about 2020 vision at the beginning of the year, and it's like, well, the saying is like, be careful what you wish for, but I'm like, be freaking grateful for what you wish for, because we have the eyes to see right now. We were born for such a time as this. We are so equipped, but what happens is we can often feel like when we go down the rabbit hole and find more information, we find ourselves like literally in this like place of like, oh my God, like I have, what's that saying? It's like paralysis by analysis. Like we actually become paralyzed in terms of like, oh my God, I know all this stuff now and I have no idea what to do with it. And it becomes heavy and it becomes draining. And then we just tap out, and then we resort to this level of apathy that has gotten us here in the first place. And so it's kind of this vicious cycle. So for me, when I ask myself the question, what can I do? It is always address your body first, address your vibration first, right? Because right now we're living in a time where fear and the blame game and shame and guilt is like literally being thrown at us 24/7. And I always say, like, you can't overcome fear with more fear. You cannot shame other people better. And so how do we navigate powerfully through this time, right, in a way that keeps us in our power, in integrity? And for me, it's always addressing the body first. It's always feeling your feelings first, right? Realigning your vibration and then taking the action from that place. Because once you do, you not only feel so much better, but the impact you make is more potent because you are coming from a place of true love, right? It's like we say, oh, choose love, not fear. But does anyone actually know how to do that energetically? Like what process and what steps you need to take in order to be living from a place of love and leading from a place of love? And not buying into the same toxic culture and cycles and stories of fear. Who should we fear? What should we blame? Shaming other people, guilting other people. So for me, I am so goddamn grateful to be pregnant this year. And, you know, at the beginning of the year, I really questioned if it was the right time for Joel and I to have a baby because we were moving to Bali and this was even coronavirus. And now I sit in deep gratitude after going through my own inner work this year and really navigating that for myself in terms of like trusting the timing of my life and trusting that this baby is here in my belly for a reason. And I truly believe that now because my baby is reminding me to come back to my body and address my body first as a priority because my energy affects my baby's energy. What I feel affects my baby. And when you're a mama bear, like you are going to massive protection mode. And for me, it's just, I feel really anchored to like, okay, I know what I've got to do. When I'm feeling really anxious, when I'm feeling like I've been way too like tapped into like everything that's been going on and I've been on my phone too much, I remember to come back to my body first. I remember to feel first and then take the action. So that's what I do every single day. It's a daily practice that I commit to make sure that I'm staying grounded, staying hopeful, staying in a place of love and compassion as much as I can be. And that's not to say getting angry or feeling ragey is wrong. No, it's not. It's just understanding, okay, I need to address all of this stuff. I actually need to take responsibility of my emotional health right now and do the most supportive for me things that I can do for me first before I then show up and go and serve and empower and inform. So, yeah, it's always come back to your body first, feel first, address your vibration first.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people just would have heard that and gone, oh, I've had that happen to me recently because there's all of these things coming out and we are so connected that it can actually have an ill effect on us where it's important to disconnect as well. It's like dark and light. You can't have the dark without the light. So vice versa. It's like being connected and having to disconnect from a lot of that stuff at times it's actually beneficial. You can go down all of the rabbit holes, but people know when they're feeling heavy and there's no guilt and shame around, okay, cool, look, I just need a time off my phone. I did it the other day. I was like, cool, off my social media, deleted it. I actually lost my phone on Sunday. I actually didn't want to find it. I was like, I lost it. I'm like, actually, this is okay. This is a sign. I don't need it today. So I left it and went and picked it up from the gym on Monday. I was like, this is okay. And a lot of people feel like, okay, cool. If I don't get on now, I don't reshare and all of these things. But like, okay, it comes back to you. Like if you're feeling off or ill, and things are heavy because of what information you're absorbing and everything like that, there's no wrong in just being, okay, I need to take some time for myself and all this content is consuming me, and don't feel bad about, okay, cool, if I don't, get out there and support all the causes and everything like that. If you can't show up, and you're not there for yourself, it's no use going up there and showing up for social media as well. Show up for yourself first, and that way it comes out everywhere in your content and whatever you do as well. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't get off there. What if I don't show up today? I'm like, yeah, cool. Like you're important. You're the most important thing here. Give to yourself, and then you can give to others. And I want to know, like, what's some, because I know you guys take a lot of arrows, just a couple. just a couple of sneaky arrows here and there. He's heavily under scrutinized in many areas. And what's that like? What's that feeling like? So you're sitting there and like you pick up your phone and like you get a message from someone, or you realize that you're on a current affair or whatever it is, or someone's got allegations against you, etc. What is that feeling like? That initial feeling? Explain it to someone.
It's so different now because we dealt with it for so long. So it actually really, honestly, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on who it is, where it's come from, and how I'm feeling in terms of like, if I haven't had enough rest or downtime or me time, I feel more vulnerable and more sensitive to any arrows or attacks that come my way. So again, my emotional health is my priority, because when I address that, and I make sure I'm continually transmuting energy through my body from darkness to light, from fear to love, you fortify yourself in a way that creates this like bulletproof energy. But in saying that, like, I'm human as well, man. Like, sometimes it fucking stings. Like, still, this isn't anything new to us. This has been years that we've, spoken some uncomfortable truths, shared our unpopular opinions before it was popular. But for us, it's always about coming back to our why, remembering that people's experience and perception of us is not our truth nor our responsibility, and also understanding the inner work side of things, right? I'm so grateful to be, so deeply involved in self-development and inner work and, emotional freedom and self-liberation, because when you have that awareness of yourself and you continually show yourself compassion and grace every day, you then can afford that to other people as well. And it's not to say like, I don't get like in my freedom, like, that was such an awful thing to say. Of course I do, but I understand when I'm triggered, right? Because this is the thing. It depends on if it triggers me or not. Sometimes things people say like, don't even touch me. It's like Teflon. Other times, if they've really hit a sore spot and they've triggered my inner child from childhood trauma or a wound, I know, like, if I get a visceral reaction or if there's some emotion coming through my body, I know I have to go and address that first and foremost. Once again, addressing your body first. And a big thing that I do, and Kay do, we do it all the time actually, is we reparent our inner child, so that we are constantly making sure that we don't run away with stories, that we aren't safe to be seen in this world, we aren't safe to express ourselves, we aren't safe to stand in our truth, we aren't safe, full stop. Because that's a massive universal bullshit story that we all somehow have played into through our own childhood trauma and wounds that are informing this story. But it's always about taking responsibility of like, okay, yeah, that fucking stung. I was triggered. Okay, why? And then address the emotion underneath that and transmute that energy through our body, so then we can come back to standing in our light and staying in our power. But it's interesting how people just feel so entitled to shit on you online, like, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, once I address my emotions, I can actually come back to a place of like gratitude and find the lesson as well. Always finding the lesson is key.
And that's where a lot of people don't understand, is like they're going to sit there and throw hate at these people like yourself and others that are standing up saying these things. And they're at home thinking, yeah, I got to win. I'm up on these people. I'm like, it's just like you get to see it from a different perspective when you're like, for me, I know empathy now. I've been fortunate enough to learn empathy, and I can just like, I just see where that's coming from. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, it's okay. You can see things so clearly, and it's you're very fortunate to have those tools. Maybe explain some tools that you could give to someone, because a lot of things can get heavy, and like someone might speak up and they're not used to that, and they might have an audience, or their parents or the family might be like, no, you don't say that, you don't talk like that. That's wrong. I'm right. This is the way it's always been. Just shut up and sit down. Well, what's like some advice around dealing with that adversity? Because that's the main thing. That's why people don't like talking up and speaking out, because of that exact thing. They're going to be shamed. They're going to be put into this guilt. They're going to be like, okay, no, you're in that alleyway now. You're so, called woke. Now you can't. Nah, bye. See ya.
Yeah, I love that you brought this up, because I always say it's not fear that holds us back from speaking our truth. It is shame. And once we understand the shame piece, we can actually get to work, right? We can take responsibility of how we let people affect us and not remain in victim mode, right? So one of the processes that I do and that I teach in my program is, I would call it, I guess, like my inner child process. Because if you notice in the world right now, a lot of our egos are flaring for good reason. Because the job of our ego is to keep us safe, right? And a lot of us are feeling so unsafe. So we're all coming from ego, and that's how you see a lot of like us versus them, attack, shut up, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not woke enough, whatever it is. Ego. And then the other side of that is, the other part of that is our inner child is screaming right now. Anytime you are triggered, it's a clue. Your inner child is not feeling safe. And so I always come back to this process because it really helps me navigate through the big stuff and the little stuff. Like I do it, I wouldn't say I do it daily, but I do it when I need to. So I love this tool because it really helps you, like I said, take your power back and help you reset your nervous system and ground yourself and anchor yourself to your truth and love and continue to show up from that place. So the first thing that you need to do is understand your triggers, right? You need to actually identify, okay, what are my triggers? Understand when you get triggered. So I'll give you my triggers, right? Whenever I feel unsafe to be seen, it is because I either feel like somebody's going to misunderstand me or they're going to reject me and in turn make me feel lonely and isolated. So my biggest triggers are, the themes are loneliness and feeling misunderstood. And so doing the inner work, understanding the triggers, and there's so many things you can do, like the 5 whys, for example, to really understand, like, why is this triggering me? What's the root cause of this? All about getting to the root cause. Once you understand the root cause or the story behind that and the trauma that is informing this story, you can then go and address the trauma. And so all that is really is actually understanding how to process the energetic charge and the emotion that is attached to that trauma from childhood, so you can then release that and transmute that through your body. So once you address your trauma, once you transmute that emotion through your body, and that can be anything from, I don't know if the scale of consciousness, the level of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
We've got the lowest frequencies of shame, guilt, fear, and then you go through stages of like anger, grief, apathy, acceptance, joy, enlightenment, love. So when I know I'm in shame, right, when I'm being triggered, the shame story is coming up from that childhood trauma, I have to then go and address the shame through my body, and that's either I speak it out loud, I cry and will scream, I will punch a pillow, Some people might like to journal or dance. Movement is medicine. Any way I can shift that literally through my body and feel it like vibrating through my cells is how I transmute the shame up through the levels of consciousness. And then from that place, once I've cleared my energetic body, I will then go and reparent my inner child. So our inner child always just wants to feel safe, right? So I'll do a havening process, or I'll do an I am affirmation, and I will literally parent myself the way that I parent my child. And I feel like this is a massive responsibility we all need to just take on right now, is to actually be the parent that we needed as a child and show ourselves the love we needed that we didn't necessarily receive as a child. And so I'll do my havening, I'll repeat I am affirmations, I am safe, I am loved, I am worthy, I am received, all of these things. And the havening technique is something you guys can look into for yourselves. It's powerful stuff. Justin Bieber does it. I'm actually watching his YouTube series. I'm like, oh my God, he does havening.
I was just doing it then. I was just doing it then. I'm like, that feels good.
Yes. I will play Hertz music, Hertz frequency music, anything that gets me in that beautiful feminine state of nurturing myself and nourishing myself and making myself feel safe and protected and loved. Because this is the thing, we need to really remember that when we're feeling unsafe, how can we be our own safe space? How can we be our own safe container and build that for yourself? So you're not constantly relying on external things outside of you to do that for you. You are literally your own parent. You are literally your own healer. Like, you are your own safe space. And so once I've done that and I feel good again, I feel settled, my nervous system feels reset, I will then go and create, in whatever way I challenge myself, can be big or small, very private or public. I will then go and challenge myself to create a new reference point that reaffirms a new story that counteracts that bullshit shame story that wants to flare up and take over and have me believing in it and being consumed by it. So we'll actively go and create new reference points and pieces of evidence to reaffirm a new story with whatever it's been attached to, so I can create a new reality and a new normal for myself. So that's my process sort of in a nutshell. There is so much to it, but I hope that makes sense and is helpful and valuable for somebody.
I'll tell you what, that just gave me a hell of a lot of valuability today. I'm like, okay, there's some things, some gold nuggets there that I'm definitely taking away. So thanks for explaining. A little funny story actually on the whole triggers thing. I realized this happened like 2 days ago, a trigger of mine. And it's so evident, I never realized it. I've never ever gone up to a woman and approached her in public and said hello. Like someone I didn't know. I've never ever, and obviously I have a real fear of rejection, but I never realized it until a mate went up and asked someone, and I seen him do it a couple times, and I was like, bro, how do you do that? And this is where I had to go through, a similar process to what you're going through, unpacking all that and working through it. And, my little child, and I was like, shit, I got rejected as a young teenager, as a young kid. And I was like, I have never, ever asked approached a woman and said, hey, how are you? Oh, my name's Luke. What are you doing? Never. Yeah. And I was thinking, and you never done that. And I was like, it took me 2 days to wind back through things. And I was like, I've never done that. So it's all those things show up for me, and I'm like, holy shit. I challenge
you now to rewrite that. I've created a new reference point for yourself.
That's what the bit that I didn't add was the reference point to recreate that story, because I was thinking about this today. I was like, okay, how do I do this? I was like, I'm gonna go get some people that I know and say, hey, look, I'm gonna come up. Can you reject me? But then I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work. So I've got to recreate that story. But I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, okay, this is my homework, and just having this conversation that we were talking about now. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm like, I took so many gold nuggets from that. I'm like, this is adding to my homework. I got all the answers I need right now, so I need to find something to reconfirm that story to myself now. So.
Yeah, and the more you do that, the more you get in the practice of doing that through repetition, you literally rewire your subconscious mind, and you're you're rewriting the story and creating new neurological pathways, again, to create new thought patterns, new behaviors, and a new normal. Like, so it's so interesting you say, like, the rejection piece, and you linked it and connected the dots straight to childhood, right? I have a woman who I work with at the moment who is so afraid to speak her truth, because the one time she did that in year 4, when she told the truth and she thought it was the right thing to do, she was completely ostracized from her group, her friendship group. They kicked her out, they shunned her, they dismissed her, and they said she was lying. And so she carried that literally with her, that story, to like adulthood, and it has her literally swallowing her truth and suffocating on it every single day, because she's lived in this state of like, her inner child just constantly flares up. Every time she goes to speak, she closes off, because again, the shame piece comes up. And the inner child story is like, no, don't do that. It's not safe. It's not safe to speak your truth. You'll get rejected. It's not safe to go and approach a woman. You'll get rejected. So catch that, and then like make some powerful choices with that awareness.
Yeah, it was so funny, because it was I'm like, yeah, I kind of work through all my little triggers and stuff like that, because a lot of mine were around anger and, being pissed off at people. I'm like, yeah, I swear, I squared off on my things, and I just had a light bulb moment the other day. I'm like, no, I was like, there's another one. But that's just been in the work. They always come up, and you're always going to have triggers and things, new things as well. I want to speak into like family in this time, because there's so much going on. There's everything's going on. How has family been for you? What has been your biggest takeaway for this whole, let's just say, the year? Because for me, I'm like, my whole theory is people are like, 2020, there's all these memes and stuff saying, what's going to happen next and all this shit. I'm like, for me, 2020 has given me everything I ever needed, plus more. This has been one of my best years, because it's been my most uncomfortable year yet. How has yours been?
It's been an emotional roller coaster for me, being pregnant during this time, if I'm really honest. Not having my mum here, not having my twin sister here. You feel, when you are a pregnant mama bear, you do feel very vulnerable. You feel sensitive to a lot of things, but it's actually allowed me to level up, right? To really level up in terms of self-care, taking responsibility for, like I said, my emotional health and my spiritual health, and the health of my household. And the biggest thing that I work on in my house is making sure my baby feels safe. In a world that wants you to not trust anyone outside of you, not trust anything, not trust the unfolding of life, fear everyone and everything, I refuse to pass on that story that is not, the world is an unsafe place. And so I'm forever making sure that my daughter doesn't carry that burden. And so I have to make sure that I'm embodying that to myself, making sure that I'm working on my own stories of it's not safe to blah, 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 fill in the blank. And just constantly being present, like reminding myself that life is to be enjoyed too, right? It's like we've gotten so serious this year, and for good reason. Like there is so much heaviness and so much darkness, but there is also so much light, so much joy, so much beauty that is available to us too, if we choose to tap into that, and if we choose to see it. I ask the women that I work with a lot, like, are you actually enjoying your life right now, or are you just wishing and waiting for this whole thing to blow over and hurry up and 2020 be done? Like, are you literally robbing yourself? Are you literally letting fear rob yourself of your presence right now, and actually being with your children and enjoying your time together? And it doesn't mean that you aren't caring, and it doesn't mean, that you aren't a good person because you choose to actually like sit in gratitude and be like, hey, I've actually had a really good day today, or this 2020 has been my best year yet. Like, yes, celebrate that, claim that. doesn't mean you are an insensitive, uncaring person. It means you're actually not missing the point, right? And I love, Peter Kelly wrote a book she released this year called Stop Missing the Point. She said in her book, in one of the chapters, it said, make sure you aren't protesting more than you are playing, right? And so it's like, we've got to remember the whole point of shifting the collective and moving into a new paradigm is to raise our vibration and come back to love. Play, joy, playfulness is the highest vibration we can be tapping into, and that in itself is contributing to the collective healing. So yeah, I'm all about making sure that I'm not missing the point of like, I get to enjoy this too. Like, I am growing a human in my belly, in my body this year for a reason, and I refuse to believe that the world is turning to shit. Like, my babies didn't come here right now for the world to end. I refuse to believe that. My babies are coming here because they know what's up. They're coming for the new earth, the new way, and I get to help shape that. So it's exciting. Like, we're allowed to be excited too.
Bang. Hey, I got a quick, like, this is a weird, different question. When's the last time you and your sister had a fight? Did you guys have arguments?
Oh, yeah. We have disagreements. I wouldn't say we fight.
No, yeah, but I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, I would like to be amongst that argument just to see it, because I know it'd be a very good argument. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I'm like seeing how that looks.
Yeah, do I have permission to give you feedback? Well, you might want to look at this. Well, the way I experienced it was this.
That's what I'm laughing at. I'm like, they'll be like, I wonder if there's like a conscious argument, or if it's like, okay, we're taking the gloves off, sis, and let's just go for it.
No, it's thankfully and gratefully we have both like expanded and evolved to like a place where we can navigate uncomfortable, hard conversations in a way that isn't toxic or like real low blow. You know, I used to be low blow all the time because I was constantly reacting from ego, was constantly reacting from my inner child. So when you think about it, when you want to go low blow, when you want to react from that place and you're acting like a child, it's because your inner child is flaring up, right? You're literally acting like a child right now. So because we take responsibility for making sure we're checking ourselves, I feel like we are able to, like, Taylor and I just speak our truth, and we actually understand how to hold that space for each other without taking things personally. And we also like really honor and respect each other's process. Like, Tay might need some time and space to do her process, and I might want to address things right here and right now, but we don't force. Like, I feel like we're really hyper aware of knowing how to have a conversation in a productive and an effective way, and not in a really like damaging, toxic, codependent, repeating the cycle kind of vibe.
You get to know each other on a different level, like connection wise, and it's I feel like that would be really good for you guys, because you like, I don't know, like, this is like, you know, relationships as they grow through the years. I just feel like you'd be in a good place now where you're like, okay, you know how to hold each other, and like if something does come up or things do come, it's important for you to be with each other, not like part ways. And a lot of like, you know, a lot of brothers and sisters, siblings can be in that for years, where they have one argument and they don't speak for years. And I'm like, whoa, that's years or days or months that you are missing with another sibling. And it's, it's like, that's kind of sad that, you know, it's disappointing in a way that people haven't been educated in that way. And not everyone, you know, everyone's at different levels, but it must be a good feeling to be able to know that, you know, you can have those open conversations. You need that person. You really do need that person where you can go there, you can just be held, you can be open, you don't have to worry about, you know, anything really. You just know that they got you in that way that you can express.
Yeah, and you know what it is, bro? Like, Taylor and I are very good at making sure we don't run away with bullshit stories about each other. So, like, I'm trying to think of the last time I kind of got annoyed at Tay, and it's always the story that comes up every time that I get pissed off or annoyed at something is always the same story. She doesn't care enough. She doesn't care enough about this. I'm always doing everything because she doesn't care enough, and it's bullshit. And I know it's a bullshit story. So whenever I get triggered, I'm like, no, Stevie, that's not a true story. Look, and I have to consciously take note of every single time that has been untrue and she has cared, because it's simply not true. She fucking cares. But it's just the way that I perceive things and the way and the bullshit story that my ego wants to run away with. And so we're very good at catching ourselves and not running away with the story about each other. And we make sure that we address things so we don't make up a meaning about a situation or a conversation or something that happened that just is simply untrue. So we're very quick to like clear the air, but like it's also taken us like time and practice to get to this point. It's not something that we're just always so like we vibe all the time and we're just always on the same page and it's nothing but like rainbows and butterflies. No, like shit comes up all the time for us, but we just know how to navigate through that and pivot quicker, right? Because we've practiced more how to do it. Also, I really want to give a shout out to my parents, because there's something I brought up with my mum just the other day actually. I said, I feel like, especially this time, especially with this whole cancel culture, right? It's like as soon as we don't agree on one thing, we just write that person off. Or we have one argument, like you said, with a sibling and that's it. Like, don't speak to them for years. And I really feel like we're in this place now because we were never taught as children how to have uncomfortable conversations in a safe way, right? We were never taught how to actually be a safe space, hold that container, so both parties felt heard and acknowledged and seen and respected and valued, despite your opinion, despite your differences of, whatever it is. And for me, I really reflected on why is it that Kay and I, I'm always willing to step back in the room, right? I'm always willing to lean in instead of just tap out completely. And I realized it was because my parents, whenever something came up in our household, we were always made to sit down as a family and talk about it. And everyone was allowed to speak. And we were all allowed to share our truth honestly in a way that felt safe. And I really believe that stemmed from my culture. My dad's Western Samoan. And so in the village, they'd always have meetings or they'd always sit around in circle and they'd talk through things. And I just feel like it was a really valuable skill that my parents unknowingly kind of gifted us, because now Taylor and I are not afraid to have the uncomfortable conversation. We're not afraid to navigate through that messy awkwardness to get through the other end of a willingness to understand one another and compassion and a deeper connection, because you've allowed each other to see each other on a new level through a new lens. And so I think it's about, the whole piece around teaching ourselves now and our children how to have uncomfortable conversations in a safe way, in a safe space, so that we can ultimately come to a place of loving beyond agreement. Because not everyone's going to believe the same stuff, right? We're not all going to have the same opinion, the same values, and that's great. That's amazing. That's what the beauty of humanity and life. But I think for now, moving forward, we can't just keep coming at it from I'm right, you're wrong, us versus them. If you realize the way that we have been oppressed for so long is through division, right? Divide and conquer. So now we actually have to create a new way of how do we love beyond agreement right now? How do we make ourselves feel safe in this world, and then in turn make other people feel safe and have conversations in a safe way? So I'm going to give a shout out to my parents for doing that. I thought it was a really valuable skill.
Shout out, Mumsy. And that's the thing I like to tell people as well. As adults, not everyone's going to agree with you. And if they don't agree with you, it doesn't mean that they hate you. You don't have to this cancel culture. It's okay, no, he likes Redskins. I don't like Redskins. That's it. Bye. See ya. Bye. And I'm very fortunate enough to have been around this culture in the construction industry where things were so straight. Things were so straight. And I got thrown in the deep end in this area where in that industry, it's like there's no filter on things. There's no love. They don't send it with love. It's like, get the fuck up, get your shit, bye. And that is that's kind of shaped me in today as well. I'm fortunate enough to grow up in those areas because it really got me to understand that just because like they don't agree or something, it doesn't mean they hate me as well. And it's like a lot of people like I give people, I'm like, hey man, I don't, nah. They're like, I like that. I'm like, nah, I don't really like that. They think that I hate them. I'm like, no, I don't hate you. It's got to be honest. That honesty is and sometimes like people don't realize that they don't like honesty, or they let people around them be dishonest because they don't like it. And then the people around them start people pleasing them and not being honest. I'm like, oh, that's not a good way to be. If no one's been super front up with you, I'm like, I don't know about that. That's not a good place to be in because you've created an environment where you want everyone to tell you, people please you, tell you the thing that you want to hear, because you're trying to protect yourself.
Yeah.
I want to...
I believe honesty is the best policy.
What was that one?
Honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, honesty.
Because, you don't find yourself betraying yourself, right? When you're dishonest, when you people please, when you say things just to make somebody else feel better or appease somebody else, you're betraying yourself. So, and that's too high of a price to pay, in my opinion. No,
that's so true, and I won't ever steer off my honesty as well. It's a high value, and if you have honesty, don't ever stray from it. It's not something that's commonly found today. Although it's there, it's not a real big thing that people like super straightly honest. Anyone that's really honest with me, I've even found people that have just been honest with me. They're like, I don't really like you. I'm like, for me, I'm kind of attracted to that. I'm like, I kind of know I like that person because I'm like,
rejection breeds suspicion.
Yeah, I'm like, look at it. I'm like, far. I'm like, they're so honest.
Yeah. I do value honesty, but there's also a way to go about it. You can have some tact too. Like, honesty doesn't mean being an asshole. Like, you can actually be honest in a really beautiful, loving way too. That really serves your relationship and the other person and helps you both grow and evolve in whatever it is. But a lot of us seem to be saying one thing and doing another, which is something that Kay and I, we get a real being up on it about when it comes to walking your talk and actually being a stand for what it is you say you're a stand for and doing the things behind the scenes when no one's watching and looking and applauding or liking. So just being about it is something that we are super passionate about in terms of how you show up in everyday life and leadership in general.
That's, I don't even know if we want to go down that rabbit hole. That's something that puts a dent in my bonnet too. That's like, I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to expose you. I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, no, there's no need for that because there is a lot of people out there. They're definitely, I'm young in this game and I know I've got so many lessons to learn, but that's come up before is where you see people like that and, the younger version of myself that's still coming up and learning, I'm like, fuck, I'm going to expose that person because they're just talking shit. Or they're not about what they're saying. Like, the things aren't lining up. I'm like, you're doing this, but you're out of action here. Like, you're just saying all the things, but you're not actually doing anything behind the scenes or whatever it is. And I'm like, that is the truth.
It's not, and this is the thing, it's not your job to expose the other someone, right? They, if they don't humble themselves, life will humble them for them. And also, vibes don't lie at the end of the day, right? Energy doesn't lie. And so as long as you're staying consistent and in integrity, they will expose themselves at the end of the day. And I really feel like this time right now, it's exposing a lot of people who say they're about one thing and actually not. And I truly believe that they will all, any individual or organization acting out of integrity out of spite, out of alignment, will reveal and ultimately destroy themselves. And I feel like only the trustworthy will last this time, because we are all waking up at rapid speed, and we are all realizing, our bullshit radars are becoming quicker and better than ever. And it just isn't going to fly anymore, right? We can't take anything. I feel like a lot of the lessons to learn is not taking things just off face value anymore. Actually using your personal discernment when it comes to who and what you support, and trusting your gut instinct when it's telling you something's not right here, something's off. I really feel like this year is teaching us how to trust our intuition, trust our gut instinct, and really use our personal discernment. When it comes to all of those things.
Definitely, and it's that's why I'm like, fortunate enough to have some good role models. I'm like, just gotta leave that, because that's not, like you said, it's not my job to, bring that to my attention. That doesn't do me any favors. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to help the people. It's like, what does it, what do I get out of this? Nothing. Like, look, they just derail their own train. I want to know, what's the biggest adversity you faced this year? What's something that's come up and it's been hard?
The biggest challenge I feel really like, for me, in a really like private way, is this deep wound of loneliness that I've been feeling, and I've kind of been. I'm really good now because I've kind of got myself through it. So I'm talking from a place of like coming through it already. But I felt deeply lonely this year, and it's like I really had to catch myself with shaming myself for feeling lonely and guilting myself for feeling lonely. Because it's like, we fall into this trap of, you should be grateful. Look at your life. Look at you've got a beautiful baby and a marriage and all the things. But if I'm honest, I've had this deep sense of loneliness that I still haven't quite figured out where it has stemmed from. But yeah, it's just something that I've sat with a lot this year personally, behind the scenes in private, doing really private work. But the other thing that it's just dropped in now, like, what's the biggest adversity? You know what it is? The biggest adversity I've faced is dealing with my biggest trigger of all time, which is apathy. Like, apathy triggers the fuck out of me, and it's flared up so many times this year because, again, I want to run away with the story that not enough people care, not enough people are getting it in enough time, not enough people are doing enough. Again, this whole bullshit scarcity fear story. And I've had to pull myself up constantly from this, right? And this trigger comes from a childhood trauma and wound where I feel like people who should have been responsible for me and safeguarded me really kind of put me in compromising situations and betrayed me in a sense. So the story from childhood was, because they didn't care enough about my well-being or safety or how that would make me feel, it put me in danger, it made me feel unsafe. So if you think about that on now, like the macro scale, it's been like flaring up constantly this year. It's like apathy is my biggest trigger when I run away with a story that not enough people are giving enough of the shit, and therefore that makes me feel unsafe, and it makes me feel like I'm in danger. And so it's something I've worked on relentlessly. And there's another part of this as well, because it's my biggest trigger, and it's it stemmed from childhood trauma. Childhood trauma also breeds addiction. And so the way that I overcompensate when I feel in fear and I feel unsafe is I have an addiction to fixing constantly. I've noticed this pattern in myself for years now, where I'm addicted to like fixing, solving the problem, making everything better, being everything for everybody, having all the solutions, right? Because for me, in a way, if I can provide the solutions, then I can in some way control the outcome, and then that makes me feel safe. And so this addiction that I really had to break up with this year, and I have been doing thanks to my beautiful baby inside of me and all the lessons that, still want to unpack right now. But I feel like I'm healing myself from this addiction to fixing and overcompensating to make myself feel safe and valued in this world. And it's been a wild ride, and it's something that's constantly coming up to me, especially with everything going on this year. But I feel like to me that's the bigger adversity, to be honest. Like really unpacking that story and dealing with my triggers on a daily basis when it comes to that, to apathy, because it's deep rooted and it's something that I've come up against a lot. And I really have to catch myself when I want to run away with the story of, no one's doing it. I was like, hurry up and get it. Hurry up and wake up. Hurry up and do something. Hurry up and care more. So yeah, I would say that. It's been a long run that way.
No, that's really good. And it's you just really improvise the tools as well that we used and, that we spoke about at the start of the podcast, and you putting them into play then and explain them, bringing them up your own triggers and being able to use them and navigate through things. And that's so important about having the right information and the right tools as well, because we all have our issues, we all have our problems. Just some of us are better at being able to navigate through them and get past it a lot quicker.
No, I don't think it's necessarily being better at it. It's just you've trained more, like you've practiced it more. There's nothing special about people who are being able to handle this time in a really graceful, grounded way. It's just that they've practiced more than somebody who's feeling really unsettled and rattled constantly and wobbly and fearful and overwhelmed. It's just a matter of being committed to your practice.
Got to get those reps in, hey? Got to get those reps in.
Get your reps in.
I got the last couple of questions is, okay, I'm going to give you one wish. You get one wish to change anything in the world. What would it be? You can only have one. All the women always ask for two.
One wish would be for every single person to trust themselves and their gut instincts the way that they trust themselves to breathe, unquestioned. Like, trust yourself. Trust yourself. Please trust yourself. Trust your worth. Trust your capability. Trust your resourcefulness. Trust your value. Just trust yourself.
I love that. That's it. Hey, just following your instinct and knowing what's right here. Being able to follow, that's so important. I got one more question. What is your hot tip? Let's go. Stevie's hot tip. If you got something like just like a piece of life motto or something that you live by, what would your hot tip be?
My hot tip, I guess it comes back to what we touched on at the beginning, would be before you do anything, address your body first. Like, how can you be in your body every single day? That would be my hot tip. Get in your body every single day.
Bang. I love it. That's super simple and super easy. It's a step that most people would just jump over and skip so quickly. It's just like, okay, I've got to do all the things, I've got to serve this person, do that for that person. In your body first.
How can I be in my body today? What's one thing I can do to be in my body today? Whether it be dancing, whether it be meditation, whether it be journaling, primal screaming, exercising, being in nature, breath work. Like, how can I actually be in my body today? And I really feel like that will support so many people for right now.
Done deal. Oh, well, that's our podcast for today. I'm going to wrap it up and say thank you very much. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time. For those who are out there listening, hit that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave a review, rate us, sending you my love. Stevie, thank you very much. I appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
It's been fun.
Bye-bye.